We have not gotten any Genesis pay-per-view numbers. Like Dave didn't have that in the Observer, but he did have the PCO and Scott D'Amore news because I sent him a screenshot of a DM that PCO gave me saying Scott D'Amore, in fact, offered him the world title to resign. And the new guys reneged on that deal. So he didn't give me any credit, which I basically expected that to happen. I forgot to mention Fandango was on NXT this week, and he's going to be in a feud with Lexus King. It's probably time to end this NXT partnership after seeing that. That was brutal. I didn't realize that people still liked Fandango. Like, that dude was over. They even had AJ Hawk talking about that on Twitter. I knew AJ Hawk was a little bit of a wrestling fan, but I didn't think he was like in the weeds enough to know who Fandango was and get excited for him. But yeah, so that happened. But so what else? Yeah, so we have no Genesis numbers. We don't know anything about that just yet. So I'm hoping that Dave gets those numbers soon. But we'll see, because I'm expecting it to be above what Slammiversary and Bound for Glory did, but we just don't have any of the numbers. So let's talk about Joe Hendry. He was in the Royal Rumble. I talked about it on Sunday night, but we didn't really focus on it too much. But yeah, he was one of the. They didn't really have many surprises, and even the surprises we all kind of saw coming. But Joe Hendry was one. He's I think he upped his profile quite a bit. I didn't like what they did with him, though. I thought it was pretty weak to throw him out of there in 3 minutes. That kind of sucked. But I also am smart enough to realize that I'm the only one that cares about stuff like that. All the people cared about is that he was there. His TNA title was on the most watched Royal Rumble of all time, the most watched pay-per-view of all time, in front of 60,000 or 65,000 people, and people went crazy for him. So that everybody now sees him as a bigger star than he was before he went in. So that's the only thing that people are going to remember. No one's going to remember how he got eliminated, except for me, because I pay attention to stuff like that, and the other kind of like mark nerds that care about stuff like that. I thought they made the TNA champion look weak to their audience, especially when he comes in and he hits the standing ovation on the Miz, and I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, okay, wow, they're really pushing. Maybe he should eliminate Miz, and I thought he should have, but he didn't. And then immediately Jacob Fatu knocks him down, and then Michael Cole says, well, Joe Hendry's finding out that things are a little bit different up here, which was their way of big timing TNA. And I was like, that's weak. Like, you don't have to do that. Everybody already knows that TNA is a smaller promotion, so you don't really have to like educate your audience, like remind them of that. So you just made him look like shit. You made him look like a little punk. And then Roman Reigns comes in, and Joe Hendry squares off with him, and then Roman Reigns just tosses his ass out. And it reminded me, I was super pissed about it. It reminded me of Joe Hendry's NXT debut when he came in and got eliminated in less than a minute. And I was pissed about that too. But guess what? Guess what we learned? Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Just me. And Josh, apparently. He said, no, it annoyed me too. Don't worry. I was like, they made him look like a geek. He's a nerd. And I was on a hill screaming into a void because nobody cared. Him just being there made him more over. And then they brought him right back, and he ended up getting a few wins and challenged for the NXT title, and then came back to TNA, and he was bigger than ever before. And I think this is going to propel Joe Hendry into an even greater stratosphere. So he does the Royal Rumble. He's over. People are singing his song. He got one of the biggest pops of the night. He was like he was behind like your tippy top stars. He was behind Alexa Bliss, but he's like right next, like that next tier down. And so he was huge. A lot of people recognized him. He's a social media celebrity at this point. And so that was big. That was big time. And then he does the Ariel Helwani show. And I listened to the interview. No revelations there. Nothing really to like No news, no nothing like that. He wasn't there breaking news. He's just kind of talking about his career. And it wasn't really like it had been out there before, but he said that the reason why he signed with TNA instead of other companies is because Scott D'Amore believed that he could be world champion. And he ended up getting the title after Scott got fired. But so I think that had been out there before, but smoking coffee for Joe Hendry. But Io says Joe Hendry Week, Rumble, Helwani interview concert, Helwani interview concert, and the good YouTube numbers. Yeah, like his YouTube numbers are great right now. They've kind of skyrocketed. Look, we got to admit, Hendry's on a heater. The guy is huge. Whenever he came out and had that big ovation, I took to Twitter and was like, "Hey, has Hendry cooled off yet?" And there were some people trying to argue that yes, they're just trying to do some mental gymnastics to say that yes, he has in fact cooled off. But what they meant was they don't like him as much. They meant they don't like him as much. And so when you're doing this type of analysis, you got to balance like your opinion versus what's reality. And people have a hard time doing that. It's a difficult thing to do. And I get caught up in it too. And I was of the opinion that look, they're booking this guy and they're burying him and he's gonna suck and like he's not gonna be over anymore. And I assumed they were gonna cool him off because I just didn't think they had the skill set to keep this guy over. And I was completely wrong. They kept making him lose and it didn't do anything to him at all. In fact, he's just as over as he was last summer. A lot of people took to Twitter saying, "Oh, Joe Hendry is cooled off. We haven't heard about him in a while." It's because everything ebbs and flows and dips, and he wasn't on WWE TV for a while, but he went back to TNA, and they started doing the biggest business they've ever done. Right? Genesis 4,000 strong in the main event. They didn't do anything in that goddamn match, and he was over like crazy. Got to pinfall, big celebration, and look at his YouTube numbers right now. Just on YouTube, his live concert alone is the most watch that they've had in a while, 285,000 views. And then, of course, his Royal Rumble videos, like hundreds of millions, right? Those numbers are a little bit weird, but hundreds of millions. Rockstar Games used his song in a video, I guess, and like that's got like over 30 million views. Like, so the guy is much to my dismay. Like, I like Joe Hendry. And the reason why I say this is because I was like, I assumed that everything was going to cool off, that because his skill set in the ring is pretty limited, that eventually people are going to get tired of the meme, and they have not gotten tired of it. So TNA is rightfully so riding the wave of Joe Hendry. The Joe Hendry is a meme haters. Yeah, like they everybody's just wrong. Right. But it's going to be one of those things. They're going to say, "Oh, Joe Hendry's going to cool off. Joe Hendry's going to cool off." And they're going to say it for a long time. And then when he finally does cool off, they'll be like, "See, I told you." That's how that works. You guys know it. You guys know that's how it goes.